You know, I'm not exactly sure how to explain this. I really am not. Welcome to the Daily Reads book series. I'm Christina K-R-S-T-I-N-A. This is where we read books, talk about books, no special effects, no theme music, none of that fancy stuff going on here. And if you excuse me a second, there was a hair going across the screen. But anyways, so this is book 8. Can you believe we're up to book 8 already? And Ursula is happily married. She's got Hugh as her husband and Meg as her daughter from her very first marriage. And she's got Gladys, her companion, the woman they rescued a couple of books ago from witchcraft. They've got Sybil. They're taking care of her too. They just went through all that stuff with Mary Stuart in the last book. And she's all happy. She gets this note. And there's a whole bunch of characters to keep track in this one. I did keep my spreadsheet. There was over 24 characters in your main group. There was more than that, but that was your main group, was 24 characters. There was a lot to keep track of. And so she gets this note. And keep in mind that Peg is, or Margaret, or Meg as they call her, she's only 14. And they get this note that the Duke, Norfolk, Lord Norfolk, wants his secretary, Edmund Dean, to meet Meg and maybe possibly get a betrothal going between the two families. And they're like, well, all right, but she's not going to marry till she's 17, at least 17 or older. You can do a betrothal for a few years, but, and I'm like, well, can't she play the field a little bit? Get to know the neighbors, the society, maybe spend some time at court, something like that, you know. And they get there, and, the Norfolk's got all this stuff going on. He's got all these different servants, all these different secretaries. And he's got a lot of staff, and they ended up taking Gladys with them. And you know that Gladys was the witch, the healing person, and because she was doing this stuff, they were accusing her of witchcraft, and her stuff really worked. But she had a tendency when she got upset to spew stuff and curse people verbally. And most of the time it didn't work, but maybe in people's minds back then, they believed it and their mind over matter situation happened. But so they meet this betrothal guy, and instantly Ursula is like, not only no, but hell no. No, this guy looks cold in his eyes. He doesn't look good. And at first, Meg seems to be intrigued by him. She likes the fact that the boy's paying attention to her, blah, 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 blah. And when Ursula finally tells Meg, no, no way, no way. She's got to be the 14-year-old and do the little bit of rebellious thing and sneak off to spend time with him, that kind of thing. And you're always worried that something's going to happen that's going to force something, and she's going to end up in an abusive marriage or something like that. But we didn't get that far. Thank you. And so then we learn that the Norfolk has he wants to marry Mary Stuart, and he wants to help get Mary Stuart back to being Queen of Scotland. And then once he gets that going, he wants to help Mary take over England and take over Elizabeth, and who knows where that stuff could go. So there's a lot of scheming going on. So, Ursula starts to get all this information, and she starts to gather all these clues. And a couple of times she goes to see William Cecil and the Queen's secretary, or master or something, I forget. It's on the chart. I didn't print it out. And once she's turned away because the new person doesn't know who she is. So the second time she goes kicking and screaming, I demand to see him now. And the guy needs to tell his servants, because he doesn't, because it happens again. And I'm like, why didn't the idiot tell his servants to expect Ursula again? It's like, So there's some really shading stuff going on here. And then she discovers some letters that may or may not be treasonous. And they send the messenger out. Oh, before that happens, apparently, um, you're supposed to pluck the chickens and then cook them. But apparently, way back when, if you stuck them in hot water, the feathers would come off, and then you could cook it for eating. But if somehow the chicken was boiled and the feathers came off, and they didn't eat it that day, then the chicken went really, really bad. And the whole house got a case of food poisoning. But they just happened to get the case of food poisoning after Gladys had an incident where the Norfolk's gardener wants to marry her. He's in love. And he also does his gardening, his hedges in erotic shapes and animal shapes and all different kinds of shapes and sexual shapes. And Gladys goes off on the guy because she doesn't think he's serious and she's got issues. And she ends up cursing the whole house. And then the whole house, because of the chicken, comes down with food poisoning. And now the whole house thinks that Gladys is a witch and gonna curse her out 6 ways to Sunday. And there she goes again. Jesus, the clock goes off at all times of hours. So anyways, so then there was a messenger had come in for Norfolk, and Norfolk had responded, and the messenger was taking letters back. Unknowns to us, we find out much later that the guy was working undercover for Cecil. But we didn't know that at the time. And the guy gets well and he goes off to deliver his letters. However, we find out after the fact that when he was ill, we witnessed on stage, it happened on stage, so we were part of the situation where the messenger was quite ill, and in his delusion asked Ursula to confirm that his letters were still in his bag. And she takes the letters out of his bag and shows them to him, and he puts them under his pillow. And then he leaves, once he's well, he leaves to go deliver the letters. They're still under his pillow. And when he goes to deliver these letters, he's supposed to going north to deliver these letters. And instead, he goes south. And he's killed. And apparently he was going to see Cecil in the south. But it wasn't revealed till later on, when Ursula finally gets to Cecil. There's also a couple of really there's a huge resolution at the end of the book, and we will have to wait till the next book to see if anything happens upon that big revelation. And also, the stuff with Gladys explodes. And she's accused of murder, and she's accused of the cursing and witchcraft and all this kind of stuff. And she ends up in prison for quite the end of the book. And she doesn't do very well. So, and she needs a miracle. So you'll have to read the book to find out if she gets the miracle or not. And Meg, in her teenage revoltness, gets all upset over Dean until... I'll leave that for you to read the book. But, I wanted to mention, this drove me crazy. So, this is like a paper cover. I've had to tape this thing 6 ways to Sunday. This top here, ripped. And then the bottom ripped. So I've got it all taped. When you tape the book, you tape it on the inside so that it doesn't mess up the cover. And then there were several pages that ripped just in reading. So I was kind of disappointed at the book itself. But that was just some other stuff I wanted to say. But so your big thing is, will Meg listen to her mother and stand down from hemming and hawing over Edmund Dean? What's going to happen with Norfolk? Will him and his compatriots be arrested for treasonous activities? And she finally gets to speak to the queen at the very, very end. I'm like, why isn't she talking to the queen at all? I mean, why did they leave that to the almost like the last two chapters? And what happens with Gladys? Does she get hung or not? What happens with Meg and Dean? What's going on there? Oh, and a co-host is here. Can you come up? Come here. Come here. Come here. Come say hi. We had snow today. We had lots of snow today. All right. Go on, Miss Angry. So, anyways, we will have to. They make great bookmarks, by the way. We will have to venture on. Oh, shoot. There's another cut in the back of the book. All I did was touch the back of the book. And it's got 3 little cuts that now I have to go tape. But anyways, where was I? Does Ursula act on any of the information she got here? What happens with Meg? Do we skip a few years? The author has a habit of, it's gonna drive me crazy. The author has a habit of skipping a few years between books. So we'll see what happens. See what happens with Meg. See what happened with Dean Thomas situation. The Gladys situation. And what about the other situation that may or may not put her and Hugh's marriage in jeopardy? What do you think? Have a good day. Don't forget Star Trek Next Generation on Fridays. The recaps from March are just bonkers. We did fairy tales. We did cozy Irish mysteries. Don't forget the Blarney Stone. All right, I keep calling it the Blarney Stone, but I didn't call it the Blarney Stone when I recorded it. I called it fake books, fake stories by real authors. And there's a story behind that. Go so watch the videos. And we're gonna end the month with, because leprechauns and a pot of gold and making all that kind of, do you feel lucky type situation with the 4-leaf clover. I've got Regency. Where I need to marry you to cover my gambling debts, or I have gambling debts, so I need to do this. Regency type love stories. So that's how we're going to end the month. And then, of course, the new releases. We will get to the March new releases too. So have a good one. Enjoy.